Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for an Untangled Tech Talk series webinar. Today, we're going to be showcasing our Reports app, creating new reports, demoing how you can create your own reports and dashboard widgets in NG Firewall version 13.2. My name's Chad McNaughton. I'm part of the pre-sales team here at Untangle, and I'm going to be your host today. John Coffin is our director of QA, and he'll be demonstrating the software and the new creation tab there on the reports module and answering questions along the way. JC, you hit that next slide for me. A few housekeeping rules here as we're getting started. If you have any audio issues, please use that audio panel there to select your preference. If you select to use a phone, you need to dial in and use the access code provided. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll have the option to rewatch this or revisit areas that you want to follow up on our YouTube channel. We'll be answering questions throughout the presentation. Myself and a few other staff members are available to answer questions there in the Q&A box. And if you have a specific question with maybe a bigger answer than we can provide right here, always send questions to sales@untangle.com or support@untangle.com. Before we pass it over, I wanted to reiterate, this is a very highly technical webinar. If you're not familiar with Untangle or networking concepts, I would suggest you maybe look at our 101 series first on our YouTube channel. Those cover higher level topics. You can find a full list of our upcoming webinars on untangle.com. And now I'm going to pass it on over to John.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We're going to cover reports and dashboard. There's a lot to cover, so we might go a little bit quicker than some of the other tech talks. I will say, this course is recorded. It's available either going to our website and looking for resources or going to our YouTube channel. Okay, so for that, we'll start. Reports is just a great way to find out what's going on with your network over longer periods of time, whether it's a day, a week, or a month. And you can start seeing patterns of your networking or drill down to find out specifically if something doesn't look right, why it's happening. It's also a good debugging tool, like if some site's blocked and you think your rules allow that site to go through, you can go through the reports and just see which item is blocking. We'll kind of cover some of those techniques, and we'll also cover one of the new features which allows you to make a new report completely from scratch. Before, you had to clone an existing report and then modify it based on what you want. But sometimes there's reports that don't fit in some of the pre-made reports, so it's nice that you can make a report completely from scratch. In that, we're going to cover the dashboard. We're going to cover how to use sessions, hosts, and devices and users and how they're each differently. We'll go over some of the triggers really quickly. There is another webinar specifically on alerts and triggers, so definitely go at the YouTube channel to look at that if you want to look at it more in depth. We'll look at the standard reports, how we can use them for debugging. We can also customize reports, and we'll take a look at the email templates, which is a way to kind of get a summary of what's going on in your network each day in your mailbox. The dashboard is probably one of the biggest changes in Untangle. This came out, I believe, in 12.0. It really allows you a quick look at your reports in a small snapshot. And usually these snapshots are hour or 2 or 3 hours based. And it's live, so it's constantly updating as you're watching it. You can add new widgets. You can change the time frame. With 13.2, the time frame now is global. So when you change the time frame once, it actually changes it for all the widgets. Let's take a quick look at the widgets. So this is kind of your classic setup here. I have added some of my own widgets. I have a WAN outage event, so I know when there's outages in my network and see how that is. So some of the things we'll go through, this is just basically talking about your device. This is just talking about how your resources are using. As you can see, I use very little swap because I have a ton of memory available for my small network. Disk space is kind of important. You definitely don't want to keep this under 90% full, and you can make adjustments on one of the adjustments you can make is just changing your data retention, which is right here. You can change this data retention to a smaller amount if you're saving too much. Or what many people have done is they just put a bigger hard drive in their units, and that usually solves their problems. Some people have they need to keep a year's worth of stats, and they'll go ahead and put 1 or 2 terabyte drives in there to keep that data, especially for the larger networks. Again, going back to the widgets, they only update when they're visible on your web browser. So as you can see, as I scroll down, they're blank. As they update, they'll present themselves what they need. Like I said, I have added a few new ones, some custom reports that I made myself. I took a look at this one. It shows me what people are going to social networks and how often they go to that. I can also see my WAN outages. It's blank because I've actually had no outages. And then I can look at the time frame that I'm set at. Currently, these widgets are 6-hour spans, and you can adjust that as you go across. The one thing, the longer the time frame you make, the more strain it's going to put on your CPU resources, because it has to do a query on your CPU for the database. So every time it goes to refresh, which it refreshes, I believe, every minute. Yeah, currently it's set to 1 minute refresh by default. So every minute it's doing a database query on each one of these. So the longer it's doing the query, the more data it has to accumulate, and it does take more resources. Just something to be aware of. I have not had any problems with 6 hours. I definitely do have, for my home network, a pretty powerful router for such a small network. But if you're looking at, a school or a larger business where you have hundreds of users with, constant high data going through it, definitely might want to reduce your time frame to the default, which is 3 hours. This is a real nice widget right here. It shows you all my policies that I have set up and how I'm in routing through that. It also shows how many apps are actually running in there and inherited. It kind of gives me an idea of the uniqueness of this particular course. Other things that I have here are just, how many sessions are going through there and going through there. So some of the things we can go through is just I can look at my sessions, see anything else in here, and so forth. That kind of goes over. Next, we'll go through our sessions, and we'll look at these. And so I can see what kind of sessions. Obviously, I'm probably the only one on this network at this time. I can see what's going through. This is a great way to troubleshoot your network. You can see what is going through, any kind of priorities that you have set for your traffic, where it's going to. I can click on any session, and then my session details will show up every column that's available for that particular data and where it's going. Host. This is all your active hosts. So this is the hosts that have had traffic go through the box in the last 24 hours. It's the most up-to-date on there. So I can look at the IP addresses, what kind of devices are on my network. I can see if there's anything that I don't know about, and then go through those individually. And then my devices is every device my Untangle has ever seen since it's been powered up. So as you can see, I have quite a long list of devices that's gone through there. And it's just a way of seeing, what's come in and out of my network. If I see something that I don't really recognize, I can kind of dig into deeper. It's like, why was this device on my network, and what was it doing, and then go from there. Users are anything that I either use Captive Portal, AD Connector, or I have tagged directly with a username, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. I can see what usernames have been on the network in the last 24 hours, and what kind of traffic they've been doing. So if I go over here to hosts, So I can go over here and look at a particular host, and let's say I can just go in here and get the MAC address, go into my devices, and I can find that device and actually physically give it a username directly. So then I can do things which make it a lot easier. Like I can name all the devices based on my children, and then create a rule that has the specific name of the people that I have in there. And then I can make the rule so it's more obvious. It'll say, you know, child's policy, and I have the name of all my children. Or in a business setting, I can set up different groups based on what they are: marketing, engineering, sales, and then create different policies based on those names. So I can say, you know, sales policy, and then I can have my sales group in the policy for that. So that makes it pretty nice. One of the easiest ways to kind of make rules that actually make sense, because if you see a whole list of IPs and you say, like, why are these IPs in this particular group? You'll have no, if you assign usernames or group names to those devices, it makes it a lot easier to set your settings for that. I think I have an example of that in case somebody wants to see that. Let's take a look at my rules. I don't particularly have one at here. But some of the other areas. So different ways of creating a report. So if we go through here, reports. And I'll just take a look at one of my reports here. I'll say top sites requested. So here's all the websites that are requested in a 24-hour period from my router. So I can look at this and see, you know, where they went, and put my cursor over there so I can see the different areas, and just kind of see if any kind of traffic. Others, just everything grouped together. It was it fell below the top 9%. Top 9, I'm sorry. So I want to get into more detail, and I want to see what kind of social websites I go to. So what I can do is click on settings, and then click the create report. As you can see, this kind of blanks out, puts in red the title when I click red. So I'll just say, you know, social networks. So I'll put that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that, and I'm going to look at HTTP categories. So we'll look through the list, and we're going to look at web filter categories. We're going to add that, and I'm going to put social networks, which is the name, networking, which is the name of the thing. So I'll go ahead and add that in there. And what I'll do is I'll just click the create new again. And this gives me a new report. And that'll be this one right here. And for some reason, I don't have any data in there. So let's take a look at what I did wrong. So probably I misspelled the category. So what I'll do is just go look at my apps, go web filter, and then categories. And let's scroll down here to social websites, social networking. Here we go. So I'll just copy it so I don't make any mistypes. And then I'll just enter that in here. And we're going to update that. Okay, so now we have our top sites by requests for social networks. So I just made a new report. As you can see, it shows up in my list now. And I can do something even better than that. I can go ahead and add that to my dashboard by clicking on Add to Dashboard. So now if I go to my dashboard, it should be at the very bottom. And here it is. So I've created another report, which is based on a previous report, and just modified it with a SQL command. And now I have a permanent report that not only that I can go look at it in reports to look over longer periods of time, but I can actually see actively what social websites it's going to. And that's just a quick way to make a report customized to what you need to see. Some of the other things I can do is actually create a report directly from scratch. So I can just pick an app that I want to make a report on. I'll pick Web Filter. It's just the easiest to kind of see the effects of it. And if I go here to the bottom, I have a button that says Create New. So I want to create a new one. And I'm going to say top host names. And I'm going to do games in this case. So I'm going to pick a category. In this case, it's going to be Web Filter. I'm going to add a little description. I'm going to say number of requests grouped by hostname and games. So I'm going to want a pie chart because I just love the look of those graphs. And now I need to put in my requirements for those graphs. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, well, I'm going to need a host name. And I'm going to want to count that. So these are just simple SQL commands. And if you need to know what the arguments are for the SQL database, if you go to Untangle's wiki, and then we just type schema, and if we look at database schema, you can find all the counts and so forth to what it's going to do. So I'm looking at the HTTP requests right now. So I'm looking at let's find that HTTP, yeah, HTTP events, and I'm going down here to host name, and it tells you exactly what it does. So if you're looking for any particular account or data, just go to the schema page, look at the type of events that you're looking at, and then figure out which data point that you're looking for and what kind of data type it is to give you an idea on that. Anyways, we'll go back to this. And then we're going to go ahead and do it a listing by value. And we want ascending. And then we're looking at style, and we're selected pie. We could do something fancy like a 3D pie. And then how many slices? I'm going to do 10, just because it's kind of standard. We're going to do hits as the unit of measure. And we don't need any series renting in this particular area. Let's make this number 401. It's just to what display order. It doesn't matter if it's overlapping. It will bump it up to the next one. We're going to look at HTTP events. And we're going to want to do category again. So we're going to go down here to let's see here, web. Looking for web filter category. Here it is. We're going to add that. The value we want is games. And we're going to say create new. Okay, so now we're able to look at what devices on our network are using games, and what percentage of that request, who's using the most. So obviously this iMac is doing the most, and then probably this machine right here is probably doing the second one. If you had more devices, of course, this would be sliced up into 10 pieces to have that. So that's just a quick way. And again, you can go ahead and add that to the dash by going over here and just clicking the add dash button. That makes it real easy. You can also look at the data view. So if you want to see the raw numbers and, kind of think about the way you're doing your graph or doing different parts of that. So you can look at the different ways of doing that. Some of the other areas you can do, again, you can go back to your settings and make changes as you want. Like say, well, I'm not too crazy about 3D path. I'm going to go ahead and just go with a plain flat pie. And then update that report. And you can change it to whatever you need. So yeah, you can make these changes as you go along and then update them. Of course, you get to see them right in your reports list. So if I go to my web filter, if I scroll down to top requests, I should have one that says games now. And I'm not seeing off chance here. Here it is. So as you can see, I've created a custom name, and it's showing up right in the list. So I can do anything. And I could also add it to my dashboard. So it makes it really easy to kind of create, and you really just think about what you're looking to do. By far the easiest way is to clone a report. But if you need to make one because there's nothing nearby, or you can actually just copy the instructions from one of the existing ones and modify it. Let's say you want a line chart while the existing one is a pie chart. You can make those changes by creating a new one. Makes it much easier. Some of the other things we can do, I just showed you about adding reports. Didn't go over about some of the settings inside the thing. So not only can you add it, but you can also make changes. You can go directly to that report by clicking on this and getting more detail. Let's say you're not really, you're looking for more than 3 hours worth of time, like you want to see what's happened in the last 3 weeks or a week or so forth, and you can go directly to the report. You can resize it. Some people like the dashboard more as a vertical, so they make all their items extra large and just have it in a vertical list. You can change the refresh rate, and then different areas of that to adjust it so the dashboard is exactly what you're looking to see. Again, some of the things you can do on that. Any questions that we have on reports that maybe I can go through? I know that went quick. Please just have some patience and then go through the YouTube version of this. Might help you when you're looking to do that. Definitely try to make your own report. And if you have problems with it, post to the forums, and we're glad to help you and see if we can't change some of the settings you have.
Yeah, John, we do have a couple questions I think you could answer real quick, though. One of the quick questions here was, where does the actual units hits value come from, and how do you pick other units?
Yeah, so the units are based on the schema. So if we go back here to the schema, so one of the ones we're going at, we're doing a count. So if we look over here, let's go back to that report that we had. And it's going to be here. Games right here. So if we go settings, and this unit is just basically a unit that we give it as the count. So if we go on here, see if we see hits, it says 62. That 62 is the count. So I'm just putting in the graph, what am I counting? And I know that sessions are just based on count. So a count is really a hit, a session that goes through. So that changes the comment. So like I could change it to something else, like just change it to sessions if you wanted. And then I can update it. And so when I put my cursor now, it's changed to sessions, if you see that. So it's really just a visual reminder for the human, like what is actually being counted on that.
Cool. We did have another question. When you were setting up your report on social networking, it looked, a couple of people noticed it looked like social networking wasn't checked to be flagged or blocked. Can you explain kind of where that data comes from if that's not option, if that option's not enabled?
I guess I'm not sure on the question there.
It didn't look like you were flagging web filter reporting data, but you got data.
Oh, right. So the key is here, whether the traffic goes through it, and you can really see that if you go to all web events. So I'm not flagging or blocking several sites. This is my home use, so I don't block very much. And so while I haven't blocked or flagged, we still categorize that traffic. And that kind of gives you a sense of like the type of traffic that's going through your machine. So you can go things like top categorization. So you can see that these, most of my traffic is content servers. So that I'm going to, and then I can go through now none of these were flagged and blocked. So even though you don't check those boxes, we still categorize the traffic, because while it might not be used for web filter, you might be using it in a policy tab, in some kind of policy rule. So flagging is just if you're more interested in that kind of traffic, it's a quick way, because there's already pre-made events for that. Like I can go through here and say, what's my flag traffic? Here's all my flag traffic. Cool. And then go through my blocked. So you can pick categories even though you haven't checked them.
Excellent. And one more quick question here. One of our attendees is an MSP asking about exporting custom reports. Are you able to make a standard set of reports and import them to all your customers' untangles, that kind of thing? Right.
You can't export them as a group, but you can export them by the individual app that it goes with. Like right here, I can export all my web filter reports and then import this into a different machine. Caveat here is that the machines have to have the same version. So they will not import if it's on a machine that has a different version. So it's kind of important that you keep all the machines that you're managing on the same version. Personally, the way I do it is through Command Center. I literally, when I'm ready to upgrade, I go to Command Center, click each machine, and then click the one upgrade button. So I upgrade all my machines at once. And it's easy to export any kind of settings I have, whether it's reports or anything else, to the other machines.
Fantastic. Real quick, you want to jump over to the next slide there for me, John?
Sure.
As we mentioned, this is a very technical webinar. If some of you are confused, we're not entirely surprised. That's okay. If you need any help, installing, configuring Untangle, if you want, any specialized assistance, we do offer professional services here. You can, get one of our support engineers to basically set an appointment with you and get on the phone with you for a couple hours and go through your entire Untangle. If you want, that's available on untangle.com. You can also contact us at sales@untangle.com. Let's go ahead and skip a couple slides there, John.
Okay.
I do want to announce a couple of things we have going on. Right now, we've recently introduced an Untangle security upgrade program. This enables you to save with easy upgrades and competitive trade-ins. So if you have an account rep dedicated, contact them. If not, hit us up at sales@untangle.com. And you can also see we've got our Bring Us to Work promotion still going. If you're using Untangle at home and you want to get us in your environment at work, that's a very common thing, and we will help you out with that. So if there's a quick a quick use you think of, that you love Untangle at home, and you think you could bring that to work and show them that use case, by all means, do that and contact us, and we can maybe give you a little bit of a deal on it. We're doing easier upgrades, easier trade-ins, all that kind of stuff. John, go ahead and get that last slide there.
That looks like it's
the last one. Good. All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, JC, for a good presentation. Once again, everyone registered. We'll get an email later with a link to the recorded webinar on YouTube. It'll be available here later today in the morning. This was a good one. This is a very complicated new feature that we've unveiled here, and we've been wanting to do this for a long time. So if you got lost, things like that, it will be on YouTube. You can watch it at your own pace. Go back over. If you do have any additional questions that are technical in nature, email us at support@untangle.com, or if you're new, presales@untangle.com. You can always hit us up on Spiceworks, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then always, check our webinars on the site. You'll see under the resources, our webinars schedule. You can always register for those. Even if you don't make the live webinar, registering for it will shoot you an email to the link when it's uploaded. That's about it for this webinar. Thanks again, John. Thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you all next time.